My name's Luke. I have started an internet radio station. Has anyone heard of Play Pause Play? Has anyone seen the video on Facebook, the campaign video? A few people, that's fucking excellent. Has anyone listened to it yet? Anyone pledged to the crowdfunding campaign? Nice, thank you. Shit, that's way more than I expected. For those who don't know, I've started it. I ran a possible campaign for 4 weeks. And raised $15,000 in total from 330 people who pledged support, which is incredible. Pretty much all of that money is going to printing t-shirts and paying for music licensing, so there's still a hell of a lot to do, but it's a really, really exciting time for me and for, I think, the South Australian music industry. Now, another benefit of having my phone on the stage is that I can keep an eye on the time, because I can absolutely ramble about this for half a day. But when I tell people that I've started an internet radio station, the immediate question that follows is, but Luke, why? And it's fair enough. It's 2018. I realize that. And I realize that radio means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I will tell you why, but I'll give you a bit of a background about myself first. I've been a part of the South Australian music industry for about 15 years now, starting off going to all ages shows in the beer garden at the Austral, smoking my mate's cigarettes like a cool guy and not being able to buy beers yet. I studied at Music SA, which, by the way, everybody should do if you're not already signed up. Absolutely check it out and consider it. I managed a local band for a couple of years, had some good successes through them, got some airplay on Triple J, got some TV syncs, which were quite good. I wrote a blog about the South Australian music scene. Started that blog before Facebook existed. I made a South Australian music podcast before SoundCloud existed. And eventually I found my way to Radio Adelaide, seeing that I could learn how to make radio, and figured I should probably go learn to do that thing that I was kind of already doing. In that time, I've watched major changes that have impacted this music industry here in South Australia, from the apartment developments at the east end of the city to the banning of smoking indoors, which I am absolutely in favour of, lockout laws, small venue licenses, social media, and the end of our printed street presses. I've seen various initiatives exist to support and build the local industry, from Fuse Festival to the Music Development Office, Northern Sound System, N1 Records, IndieCon, which we've just had. But all the while, there's been something missing. I started an internet radio station because I believe there's a piece of the puzzle that's missing here in South Australia. I started at Radio Adelaide as a program coordinator for Local Noise. At the time, it was a weekly show that hosted live performance and an interview from a local band or solo artist each week. In the middle of 2016, after some massive changes at the station, I got the chance to take over the morning time slot. From 9 till 12 each weekday morning, I was playing 100% Australian music. And it was more music on a daily basis featured than anywhere else here in South Australia, for that 3-hour period at least. I also managed the weekly feature album, made recommendations to other programs and local artists about what they should include in their shows. I had a lot of off-air duties as program management, volunteer, coordinator, and most importantly, I managed all of the music inquiries and submissions that came into the station. If you had a question about music on Radio Adelaide, you had one person that you could go to who was there full-time, who could answer those questions and give you advice. I've written letters of support for artists who've put in grant applications. Via AMRAP, I've written articles for Tone Deaf about exciting Adelaide artists that are making cool music at the moment, that I know that has directly led to artists getting opportunities to perform interstate. I've helped write bios, I've helped come up with promotions plans for artists. And in the middle of last year, due to funding pressures, that role at Radio Adelaide was made redundant. That's why I started an internet radio station, because as far as I know, there's now no one in South Australia who is employed full-time to worry about that kind of thing at a radio station. No one. Sorry, let me just skip through here. Now, well, I should also mention, I know when a publicist says thank you, they're really just doing their job, but I can't tell you how many times I had a music publicist from interstate tell me, fuck, it's so great to finally find someone in Adelaide who's looking after this stuff, who's managing this kind of stuff. And again, that's why I started an internet radio station, because I believe having someone in a position doing that kind of thing is absolutely vital. Now, it's not to discount the work of incredible volunteers and volunteer organisations that we have. 3D, Radio Adelaide, Fresh, all do amazing things for the South Australian music industry. But the bit that I think is missing is making it easy for people to get exposed to the music of local artists. I wrote a blog for a long time. Blogs are really shitty ways to discover new music. Who wants to read about, I don't want to go through 3 paragraphs about something and click on a YouTube video and wait 3 seconds for it to load. I just want to hear some music. That's the point of Play, Pause, Play. That's the point of the app that I've made. Open the app, press play, and let it run. Now, of course, the obvious question is, why didn't you just do a podcast? There's a number of reasons. One of them is licensing. The other one is, does everyone have Netflix? How much do you open Netflix and then sit there scrolling through, trying to find something to watch and going, fuck, I don't know. And then that feeling when you're 2 minutes in going, am I really going to commit to this? Do I really want that? I might just back out and go to something else. There's a stress, I believe there's a stress when you are in charge, when you are selecting something that you feel. And having something that you can just press play and let it run gets rid of that stress. That's why I started an internet radio station. I've had one artist tell me so far that they find it addictive listening, which was very encouraging to me because I find it addictive listening, but it's my project, so of course I would feel that way. But wondering what's going to come next in the rotation is really powerful. So to give you a bit more of an understanding of Play, Pause, Play, it's 100% Australian music. Everything that you hear when you press play is made in Australia. A big focus on what's up in the rotation is who's playing in Adelaide soon, local artists and touring artists who are playing here soon. So you open the app, you press play, and within 20 minutes, you'll have heard a couple of songs from artists that you can see performing in Adelaide soon. There's never been anything like this in South Australia, and that's the thing that I feel is the missing piece. I was at Big Sound last year in Brisbane. Does everyone know Big Sound? Music conference. There's a few nodding heads. I'm not seeing any no's, but that's... I was at Big Sound, and there was a panel that Nick Finlay from Triple J was on, who you'll hear from soon enough, talking about Australian content. There was also a guy there from the Brisbane hit station. He was the music director at the Brisbane hit station. And he said that he tries to squeeze in as much Australian music as he possibly can within that framework. But also that Brisbane is seen as a bit of a test market. So they'll play a song and see how the audience reacts to the song. And if it goes well, then it'll start filtering down around the rest of the country. Sorry, this is my from Brisbane down the rest of the country movement. And I thought, fuck, how good would that be if we had someone in that role in South Australia? But we don't. That role doesn't exist within South Australia. Our commercial stations, now I have a feeling that no one in this room listens to a commercial station, but let's not forget that the majority of people do when they listen to radio. Our commercial stations, the music played on our commercial stations is determined by someone who doesn't even live in this state. That's a problem. That's why I started an internet radio station. Around that time of that panel, there was also some news, some numbers, some figures coming out about local content quotas in commercial radio. Now, does anyone know what the local content quotas are for commercial radio? 25%? Yep. 25% between 6 a.m. and midnight as measured across a week. Now, people have generally felt and generally been saying, oh, well, they achieved that by playing all of the Australian music between 11 and 12. There's a lady named Chrissy Vincent from an organisation called Col Arts in Melbourne who released a report in the middle of last year that said between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m, aka when people are actually listening, Nova in Melbourne, as little as 8% of the music they played was Australian. Now, I don't have access to the numbers realistically, but I've started doing what I can with the data that I could find on a few stations in South Australia. And I discovered that the hit station here, Hit 107, same thing, 8%, between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. This is a problem. 2 Australian artists were on high rotation that week. Amy Shark and 5 Seconds of Summer, in case you're wondering. 2, there were more songs featuring American rapper Post Malone on high rotation than they were featuring an Australian artist. That's a problem. Again, most people in this room probably don't listen to commercial radio terribly often, but most people do. Most people get their feeling about what music is happening in the world at the moment passively by commercial radio. And if 92% of the music that they're being exposed to is not Australian, that's a problem. That's a problem for culture reasons and for economic reasons. On the culture level, when I used to listen to commercial radio, I just assumed that there wasn't any good Australian music being made. Because if there was, they'd be playing it, right? I have a big problem with that. If Australian radio stations won't play Australian music, who will? If 92% of the music that they're playing comes from overseas, if the majority of our airwaves are filled with music from America, are American stations playing heaps of Australian music? No. That's a problem, and we need to address that. We need to fix that. Sorry, again, I could go on this all day, and my time's pretty much up, so I should shuffle along. But that's why I started an internet radio station. The economic reasons, of course, commercial stations pay tens of millions of dollars in music licensing to put all that music in between their 20 minutes an hour of ads. And if 92% of the music that they're playing is from overseas, then that money is going overseas. In some kind of roundabout way, if you bought a fridge from Harvey Norman, if you bought your tiles from Frank Walker from National Tiles, Post Malone got a cut of that. Post Malone profited off of your tile purchase. But if that money stays in Australia, those artists can spend that within Australia. We can see more jobs for sound engineers, for lighting engineers, in bars, wherever. You all know where the jobs are in the music industry. That's why I started an internet radio station, because I want to focus on the local. Now, I've got plenty more that I can rant on there. Music licensing is a very big issue at the moment. I don't understand why this issue hasn't been raised before as far as local content goes. Commercial stations report on what music has been played on their station. I don't know why no one's looking at that. But the key thing that I want you to take away from today is that we do have amazing local media here in South Australia. Now, I'm quite sure that the vast majority of you are here to try and get in Nick Finlay's ear and try and get on Triple J, and it's fair enough. We all know that that's essentially the backbone of the Australian, the national music industry. But most importantly, in every other state and in South Australia, there are incredible community radio stations that will support you, that will help you through your first interview, so that by the time you get a shot at a bigger station, you're more comfortable and you're ready to go. Support those local stations, whether it's 3D, whether it's Fresh, whether it's Radio Adelaide, whether it's Play Pause Play, whether it's Hills or PBA, Wow FM. Before you leave today, work out when you're getting paid next and become a subscriber. Does anyone know Triple R in Melbourne? Community station? It's a huge station. It's incredibly popular. They get about $4 million per year from their listeners, and the things that they are able to do with that are amazing. They have 2 people employed in the music team, a music coordinator and a music interviews coordinator. South Australia has 0 across the entire state. Support your local media and we'll grow together. Thank you.